All right, so can you just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about who you are and like what you do at the company?
My name's James Bruce, and I am the composer and the audio designer. But also on this project, I'm the game director.
All right, Ethan, do you want to...
I'm Ethan. I'm the environment artist, but also the game designer, which is different than the game director because I'm more fussing about like what are the numbers, what's the balance, what are the mechanics that make the game fun.
Yeah, it's
do you
like...
want to tell us what the difference is between a game designer and game director?
What are you gonna say?
It feels like the game director makes demands of the game designer, and the game designer makes it into a game, right? You know, it's like the I think we've discovered as a group that like the game director role is as much as administrative as it is creative, but it's kind of looking at and facilitating kind of big picture stuff. Whereas it feels to me, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like the game designer's role is how do we action those big picture ideas?
Yeah, like if we thought back to our design document, we wanted to say things that are very big picture and concern a game director, which is like, oh, we want to say that this game's about community and fostering relationships, and that being your goal, not to be big money bags, sort of. You don't want to learn the wrong lessons from. We want to hit the theme, so you might say, oh, it's a game that's about being there for people and creating a hub for them, and that's what's first and foremost, and your relationships with everyone matter. But as a game designer, you have to make the systems that it's not just like, hey, screw all that, I would rather just make loads and loads of money and automate everything. Some of those things do make games very fun, but when we have to stay on theme and you say that's what our game's about, then we use different mechanics to make it the motivations different. Maybe the carrot and the stick are the rewards are more for you know, caring for people rather than buying more stuff or buying a machine to do all the things that, you know, make your restaurant fun.
Yeah, quite early on we had some really good discussions, and it sort of, I think it showed initially where we both kind of got excited about the idea, because I know that neither of us were particularly keen on the idea of us celebrating the idea that the best player makes the most money. You know, I mean, obviously, you know, you're trying to run a small business, and you do need to make some money, you know, to hit your bills and your goals and stuff like that. But it got particularly interesting for us both, I think, whenever quite early on we had discussions about how do we make it that money is not the focus. And that's whenever kind of reputation came into the conversation. And it became this more... It felt like that aligned better with our pillars and with our goals to make this a game about community. Because, yes, money has value in the game. Yes, money has value in the end game as well. But it is balanced equally against this reputation that you've built with your community and with your customer base, and I mean, that's certainly, I mean, that was quite early on. To be fair, that was very very early. That was right after we'd sort of put the pillars together. But we were trying to, I think, get to a place where it didn't feel like we were just celebrating making money as the thing. You know, it had to be about something else.
Yeah.
How do you make a game about running a business without celebrating capitalism?
Well, the thing that I keep coming back to is that just even making this, we're very much aware that like there's things that can only be high quality when you take time and when you put a little more extra in. And so we try and do that in the game design, that to make a better meal, you got to think about what you're putting into the meal. The ingredients matter, and if you buy the higher quality ingredients as like that's the stat you care about, then you get number go up. You know, you get bigger gains for reputation when you serve that meal to your party members that come in. You know, your customers. You give them a bad meal, the bar doesn't go up as high. Yes, you might get money, just like selling like you always could, and if that wasn't there, that there wasn't the motivation of you will unlock things, you will get more narrative content, you will you'll get more people on side with you in the community if you do good things for them. All of a sudden now you care more about a higher quality meal. That number stat is bigger on it, compared to like, oh, I just made the same money whether or not it was high quality. Because if all that mattered was money selling meals, you would just fill everything with the cheapest ingredients every single time, and you wouldn't be motivated to do something better that takes more effort.
I guess, we wanted to avoid that race to the bottom, right? Where it's like, yes, of course, because it's a systems game, we want to allow for a bit of meta play and a bit of kind of, people kind of min-maxing, of course, because we all do a little bit of that in games, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think Ethan's right that it was finding ways to make... Well, when we compare it to real life, right, money is this necessary evil, and it's a thing that we have to collect in order to be able to survive in the society that we're currently in. But whenever it comes down to it, the thing that matters is the relationships, and certainly like coming from years of working in hospitality and truly loving it, I have to say, the bit that got me excited and got a lot of my peers excited about it was the idea that we're not just selling food, we're not just selling drink, right? Because you can go and get that anywhere, right? We're selling an experience. We're selling that feeling of being, you know what? I am worth spending the little bit extra on. Why not? I'm going to treat myself. Like, why not? Let's do it. Mm-hmm. So if we could find a way to mechanically express that feeling of being able to enjoy giving service and then starting to see your regular patrons sort of return, and ways to kind of show those little micro communities that sort of grow around those businesses that service the service communities. That just felt like that was the core of the human part of that, and it meant that we weren't just doing, as we said, this race to the bottom for the cheapest possible, so that you could metagame and beat the systems. It becomes a little bit more holistic almost, but yeah.
So. I would be interested in you talking a little bit more about game design versus game direction. Thomas pointed out that you will refer to yourself as the player advocate as the game director.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
I guess whenever we're comparing the difference between game designer and game director, I think there's a bunch of different roles that there's a little bit of crossover, but I think the main thing for the game director versus the game designer is building these systems in the way that they see fit, and in the best way to adhere to the pillars, right? It's to achieve the goals. But the game director's goal is to be the player advocate in the room. Like we're a room of clever people, or we like to think that we're a room of clever people. But the most dangerous thing I think for clever people to do is to get excited about being clever. Some other clever people in the room. So I think it's really important to have a player advocate in the room, someone that's always thinking, is this actually fun? Is the solution to problems doesn't matter so much. Like the player doesn't mind or care how clever a solution to any problem that we've come across is. Mm-hmm. They care whether they're going to fall through the floor, or whether the buttons work, or whether they'll clip through a wall.
I think you are describing a game tester in that regard.
Well, I think there's fundamentals I think that matter, and as long as there's somebody in the room that's advocating for the player, and trying to remember that the player doesn't mind why or how we've done something, they just matter how it feels. Yeah. Like that's the thing that matters.
Yeah, I can see a good thing to compare and contrast could be that maybe some of us go away and we've got this cool idea for a new system, and we think we're being very smart and clever, but you do just fall through the floor when you press play at the start of the game. So nobody's going to see your very clever thing. I do genuinely think that two people either side of the globe could come to the exact same solution, because I think there's fewer good answers to problems than there are bad answers to problems.
That is, yeah, exactly. It's not about answers, it's about good answers. Ethan says this thing all the time, that elegance is earned, and I think that kind of that
I guess
that kind of plays into what we're talking about, I think, because it's not always about the cleverest or the most complicated solution. It's about the right solution, you know, for in that moment. And quite often that's the simplest thing, actually, like the simplest route, the path of least resistance.
And it's also
is the most effective. Yeah.
It's good to come back to like what your pillars are, what your game's supposed to be about, because there's no best answer for all games. It's like, what's the best answer for this project? And what will we be kicking ourselves about if we, you know, our next game doesn't have any food in it? We're going to be like, oh, we should have done this for this foodie, you know, cooking service waiter game. But too late. We've moved on to another project.
I think that's a really good point. I think that every project gives you an opportunity to go deep on that subject matter. You know, like in this instance, we have the great gift and opportunity to go really deep on, you know, building systems that allow players to build relationships, but also kind of express the rewards of those relationships through food and through building these menus that are learnt from the characters that you meet. So, yeah, like, I actually can't remember what my point was, but
well,
I got
well, if we were making Doom,
Going deep on something.
yeah, like it just, and like I think as Ethan says, on other projects we'll be going deep on other subjects, on other ideas. So this is our opportunity to go deep on this stuff. You know?
Yeah, when in Rome would be the thing to say.
The idea is that if we were making a different game, we would come up with different answers for things.
Yeah, very much.
I
so.
think everybody should take that home with any creative project they're working on. That there's no like just that's good, that's bad. It's like, is this appropriate or is this not appropriate for what you're making?
Totally. It's not good or bad, it's right or wrong.
Yeah. Well,
that's
that's where design comes in, that the right answers sort of are when they're on brand, or they're on they're focused on the right thing. Because you can write anything on a piece of paper, you can write any design doc, you can come up with any story, you can draw any picture. The options are endless, but you actually do need to focus on something and tell the player what they're supposed to be doing. And you better be spending all your development time doing what this project's supposed to be about. Otherwise, you know, I'll get carried away and stick platforming levels in our cooking game, and then we run out of time. But I had fun.
Yeah.
Too bad the game's not fun.
Well, also, Thomas mentioned it's worth maybe exploring how your role as a composer and the person that decides the tone of the game, how that affects your role as creative director, if those things feed into each other.
I mean, it is interesting. Like, I think, like, coming from the audio background and then working as some kind of game director, in an interesting way, the composer work has helped less than coming from a hospitality management place before kind of getting into games, or certainly while I was making the transition and freelancing for a couple of years and stuff. Like, hospitality is all about your crew and your team, you know, like that's the whole gig. Like there is no cafe owner that does it all. That doesn't exist. There is no restaurateur that washes the dishes and cooks the steaks and seats people and books the music and mops the toilets at the end. That just doesn't exist. So, like, that as an industry has always been about building this team of people that you trust, and that's the key, right? You know, and I think in a funny way, video games is the same, right? You know, it's a creative industry, which of course we're all very lucky to be here, but it's this, how do I say this? I think much like whenever you're building a team in hospitality, whenever you're working with a team on any mixed media or multimedia creative project, trust is the main thing, right? You know, you have to trust enough that the people that are doing character designs and the people writing the voices of these characters, you have to trust enough that people are going to be willing to communicate and cross-pollinate in order to create something really special. I think that's one of the things that we achieved really well as a team when we worked on The Pale Beyond, was this constant cross communication between departments, and it's something that Thomas fostered whilst directing that game, was this love of the loud office, you know, of people always talking. Every department's always talking to every other department, and in a funny way, coming into the directorial role, I feel like I brought more of that from hospitality from anything else, in a funny way, just because it's that mix of people, all from different backgrounds, different outlooks on the world, but we're all trying to point our furniture at the same TV, you know, we're pulling in the same direction, we're trying to make the same thing. And I think it's such a huge part of that is just trusting each other to bring our A game or whatever, you know.
Have we accidentally made another game about running a games company?
Yes.
Yeah, every time, you make what you know, right? You know, that's a funny thing. Somebody asked me that recently about voice in your work, you know, and I think, especially whilst talking to people that have played Pale, I think we as a group had an idea about how obvious we were being about, you know, our political positions, and like we're a group of progressives, and we live in this post-conflict society, and so that's all quite normal for us because we live it every day, right? But seemingly it comes out very clearly in the work, and it crystallized for me that your voice coming out in the work is kind of unavoidable. And I think that's part of that trust thing, right? You know, like I trust everybody in the room's taste and their voice, and I'm fans of all of them individually. Yourself included, of course. But I think just the people that we are, and the things that we think, and the things that we love, and the things that we care about just comes out in the work, and you literally can't help it because your voice is your work. So it's just it just is.
I heard something somebody said recently that really stood out to me, which is that it always matters who's making the thing. I have grown up a lot wanting my work to speak for itself, and thinking, and that actually is a danger of falling in the territory of like there is just objectively good things and objectively bad things. But really what's more important, like we were saying earlier, we need to make things that are focused and made to order. Like, we're making a game about this, so how good is what we're doing? Well, who are we and what are we saying? How well are we expressing ourselves? And that's the mark of the quality of something. It's not like, oh, is it higher definition? Is it 120 frames per second? Is it high contrast cinematic lighting or whatever? It's like, no, is it artfully done? Is it on mission? What is your mission?
Yeah.
What are you saying? Who are you? Where are you from? What is your experience? What kind of weird hybrid are you? Are you a musician who also loves games, who's also an artist, who loves writing, who... Like, I love that we can all be more individual, and those Venn diagrams of all of our passions come together, and this medium lets us blend them. We don't have to keep them all separate. We can be these individual people, and when we make things, we're that mix, we're that unique sort of
soup
of what we've ended up being, you know.
I mean, we're playing for feels, right? You know, like playing for feels is the whole thing. I suppose it comes back to like the cleverness thing. Like you could be the cleverest, or we could come up with the most novel solution to problems. But like, players know if stuff feels right. They know if stuff feels sincere. They can tell if a developer cared, I think, you know. So I think just reminding ourselves all the time, trying to be the player advocate. I think that's something that I try and remind everybody of all the time, is that we're playing for feels, you know.
Yeah, but also if you tell the player what they're getting into and then you deliver what you promised, then the player knows that they know what to expect. You don't want to pitch them one thing and then give them the wrong thing, you know. But we do like to surprise people by pulling the rug out from under them and making the game more emotional than they expected, or you know, a bit more serious than they first thought. That's fun, but we don't want to say we're something we're not, you know.
Yeah, that's quite a deep marketing question, to be fair. Like the notion that you have to always be careful about how you're portraying yourself in order to avoid that most dangerous of thing, where you've made something that you have great faith in, you have great belief in, and the people that would have loved it, but they were expecting something else.
Yeah, you pitched to the wrong crowd, or it was false advertising because they thought they were going in for one experience, but they got another.
And they got something else. Yeah.
Games are weird because yes, it's art, but it's also a product, and people buy it, and they use it like it's a design thing. They put it in their hands, and people complain about tools they buy or things they have to handle and use. So
yeah, because it's so active, because it's not passive, it's difficult to miss if it doesn't quite line up to what you thought you were going to get.
Mm-hmm. 1 star, literally unplayable.
Yeah.
I do want to talk more about making a game about running a business versus not incentivizing profit stuff.
It's so that's something that rattles around in my head quite a lot, because I don't think it's a game about running a business.
No.
And I know that it is literally a game about running a business. Like, I do get that. Like, I'm not completely out to pasture here, but in my mind, this is like coming from the hospitality space. For context, right? I used to run the whiskey bar at a hotel in town in a popular area, and it was busy. But it became really apparent really quickly to me that nobody was coming in because of the whiskey selection that I chose behind the bar. People were coming in because they were because they liked the staff, because they liked the music, because they liked the comfortable chairs, because they liked the ambiance, and most importantly, they liked the feeling of being there. And so in a funny way, because this isn't a game about paying your tax on time and worrying about profit margins. There are other games that do that, like really deep management games. This is a game more about designing the feeling of a place.
Yeah, you're making a place. You're like almost terraforming a little habitat for all these little guys to come in and look after them.
And that's the thing I think that feels truest to me whenever we look at the day-to-day, the way that people outside of the administrative stuff actually run a business. It's about fostering your community and making them have ownership over the place, or helping them have ownership over the place, helping them feel comfortable and view this place as part of the community. It's part of this hub. So interestingly, I do appreciate that. Yes, it is technically a game about running a business, but in my mind, it's more about the kind of I don't want to say soft power. That's a really weird way to put it, but that kind of social juice that happens whenever just people are together. Like that's
Thomas has talked about it being a third space, which I think is a thing that we don't have as much of in the modern day, where the closest we'll get is that, a lot of us in the team might have had to sit in a cafe for hours to work. You order coffee, just so you can not feel bad about sitting there. But people like to be in these sort of public spaces that are kind of opt-in social. You can hang out there and feel comfortable there away from home, especially if it's a story about you being like somebody who's left their home in this strange new city, and you creating like a place that you feel safe and other people feel safe, and they like how it feels to be in this little island of calm or warmth or whatever vibe you're going for. I think that's what you're fostering.
Yeah.
Not just profits, but also like people keep coming back because they feel that it's a place they like to spend their time, and they will make friends there. They will they'll get to know the staff. It
becomes found family, really quickly. I mean, anybody that's worked in hospitality knows that, I think, your regulars and your teammates and even the people that just work in businesses close by, because you spend most of your time with those people, that quickly becomes kind of found family in this group of this kind of community around you.
In contrast, reputation wouldn't matter if you never had to see the same person 2 days in a row, because you could just snake oil salesman, sell them the stuff, they get sick the next day, but you've already skipped time. Reputation in fostering community is like being there week to week,
It's standing
season to season.
It's like standing behind your decisions and your assertions, right?
Yeah, because you will be here when they come back.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a feature of living in Belfast. Like, it's a city literally that doesn't have the population density to support anonymity, so you can disappear into.
That's good. Yeah, Thomas is definitely right. I think that it's like the us coming from this smaller city, even though it is the capital, it is small, you know. And what was the way you put it? The city's not large enough to foster anonymity.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't put your head down and walk past a million people like you would do in the street in London.
If you fuck up, everyone knows immediately.
Yeah, totally. Like,
then it has to facilitate redemption arcs, because otherwise no one would do anything.
Yeah, when we first talked about this project, I thought, oh, this has to be set in like a tiny village on an island. That way everybody is like, you know, remembering everything everyone did. But we do literally live in a city that is more like a town or a village. That if Louthport is like almost fantasy Belfast,
yeah,
it is the character of the city we live in that you will be remembered by the people in all the shops. You will see your friends walking down the street. It's small. It is small in the grand scheme of things, and that's more on theme for a game about reputation and community. That it's the same people, seeing them again, and remembering how you treated each other.
It makes the stakes a bit more personal, I guess.
You have to be around to see the consequences of your investments in people. And I guess you're investing in the people most of all. Well, we're going to try and do that, I think.
I think that it's maybe worth touching on the tension between community building and needing to make rent, or you don't have the community anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you need to there's this like balance between I need to make enough money to keep going, and also investing in the community is the thing that makes any of it worthwhile at all.
Well, the one sentence answer to that is, will people enjoy the best steak from the market if you buy it every day and sell it to them? It's the most expensive. It's also the best. But can you afford it?
Can they afford it?
Can they afford it?
Can they afford it? Yeah. I think there is. I think there has to be stakes, and certainly there being this underlying like requirement of the player to be able to meet certain goals aside from their own personal ones. I think that's important to give the game stakes, and to give, like, you know, the situations the player will find themselves in stakes. Stakes. Yeah, there's definitely. I mean, there's friction there. It's certainly something that we I don't want to say battled, but we certainly had a couple of heated conversations at the start, because we wanted very much for it to be not detailed like a simulation, but we wanted the feeling of running the business to be true to life. And of course, part of that is the stress of money. Is that exists, that is ever present in the background, and so. But I think that is the joy, and again, to reference the hospitality thing, that is like, that doesn't go away. But the two things that matter to us, you know, this building of community, the playing for feels, and the slightly more cold and calculated administrative addressing your numbers kind of game. Those two things can and work well, I think, together. You know, they balance each other, because one is very kind of like meta play brain, you know, let's deal with the numbers, and the other is very much, how do I feel about this? Either the character I'm role playing, how do I think they would feel, or how do me, the meatbag, how do I actually feel about it?
There was a point when we did a big redesign of what we wanted service to look like, and the thing that really was like that seesaw of conflict, that you can't do everything, you can't make everything the best possible that it can, and also make money and make it manageable. It was that the idea of stress and limited actions, limited money, limited resources, and watching shows like The Bear, you see people in the kitchen kind of bleeding and sweating tears to kind of make things easy for the public, for the customers. And I think that conflict of, can you make everything great for the community and everyone happy, like, working in a kitchen is one of the most stressful jobs you can do in your life.
It's pretty hardcore.
And for us not to have any stress in the game wouldn't do that justice. And so,
it wouldn't be honest. Yeah.
So there's this balancing act of, do you do so much for other people trying to please them that you yourself suffer and your business suffers? Or do you have to find some kind of equilibrium where both of you can benefit and it's sustainable? Because all of us, especially in game development, we could give so much and put our backs out trying to make the best thing we can. But if we can't make the next thing because we push too hard, that's a conflict that all of us need to figure out how to resolve in life. Like, how much is too much to give when you're giving things to other people? You make their lives better, you make things the best they can be, you make places for people, communities, but at what cost is it too great? And if the answer is I'm not sure, well then we've got plenty to play about with in this game, loads of questions to ask, and that's good. That's good soil to plant everything in, I think.
James.
Hello.
How did you find stepping into the role of creative director for a new game?
Certainly a challenge. I think quite sincerely it's one of the most rewarding work-related things I've ever done. But easily by a country mile it's the most difficult thing that I've ever done. Ever. Period. I think
you used to work in hospitality.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot about hospitality that kind of carried over, especially with kind of like working with people, which is that's the bread and butter of the whole thing, right? Is working with people every day. But by far and away the most difficult thing I've ever done. I think it's partly because you're always balancing the expectations of others, right? You know, we're communicating with the publisher, we're communicating with third parties of all different kinds, whether that be, you know, folk helping us with trailers or marketing team, but also communicating with each individual team member about their expectations, and everybody has different expectations. And this is before we haven't even mentioned the audience yet. Which is this is the biggest group we're communicating with, you know. Certainly the reason that I buy games and buy records and buy paintings is because I'm interested in the artist's voice. I want to hear what they have to say. I think that we showed with Pale that we found some of our people, you know, and they're excited to hear what we have to say. So I think my most important job whenever coming in to the directorship or whatever is to facilitate those voices. That's the most important thing, because that's the bit our audience, that's also the bit that our publisher, that's the bit that everybody wants to hear, is the voices, you know. Was
there anything you have particularly enjoyed about the role, or anything you found especially challenging?
Nope.
No?
Nope, easy.
Okay. But you haven't enjoyed anything either?
Nope. Is there anything I've especially enjoyed? There's been a bunch of stuff that is like super special to me now. Like I've always I think one of the reasons that I always quite enjoyed freelance work was that I largely got to pick and choose what I would do. I'm not a micromanager, and I've always struggled whenever I would have a director or somebody above me that was a bit of a micromanager. So it's been really, really, really satisfying and gratifying, and I'm not going to lie, validating too, is that once we got together as a team and we decided that everybody would have a bit more creative freedom, that the results have been spectacular. And it's been awesome, to be honest with you, and I mean that in the biblical sense. I'm awe-inspired. I'm in awe of and humbled by the team and the incredibly talented people that allow me to do what I do. I think is the dopest thing ever. I think, probably. That collaborative part is key. I think I've been incredibly lucky and incredibly privileged to be in the position where I'm making the decision. So if somebody sends me stuff, I go, cool, awesome, that sounds good, or cool, awesome, that does not sound good. But I think we and certainly, I mean, this is you know, riding the coattails of Thomas's work. we have an incredibly talented team, and everybody trusts each other, you know, and we are, as I said before, individual fans of each other's work. So it's quite easy, I feel. It sort of feels like a bit of a joke, actually, sometimes. Like, work gets submitted and I'm like, no notes. Like, you know, stuff is just good. And I think it took a little while, but we all understand what we want to make. That's why I think people need to understand that a director in any capacity, whether it be film or TV or games or whatever, like, their job is a facilitator. Their job is to is to grease the runway, right? It's to make sure that everybody has everything that they need when they need it, and that they can take the path of least resistance to the best quality work that they are happiest with.
Yeah, and sometimes the rule is to just get out of the way.
Absolutely. I mean, that has been some of the hardest, I think, that has been some of the hardest for me to recognize and understand, because there would be whole days where the best thing that I can do for the art team, for example, is to literally just get the fuck out of their way, just get out of the art team's way. And then I go home and I sit in bed awake being like, I'm a hack fraud, I didn't do anything today.
Yeah, well, it's that balance between feeling like you're contributing and actually contributing.
Yeah, and I think, like, that's the key is you know, recognizing that as a facilitator, as you say, sometimes the best thing to do is just to go, I trust everybody in the room, I'm going to go do something else. You know,
even with best laid plans about what system I want to have made or whatever, I can, out of, you know, fear of messing up, I can over plan and over design, like, the way everything exactly has to be. But now, this much later, from trying to work with people, trying to get them to make what my vision is, really what I need to do is instead offer a series of canvases that other specialists can paint on and that they're actually excited to paint on. And I thought that I had to create the best blueprint I possibly could and say, go and do exactly this. But I'm certainly finding, with that angle of trust and believing that people with specializations can make great things, I need to let people and individuals in the team answer the questions the way that they would answer them and express themselves in that. And certainly, if I have another go at this, I'm gonna make my plans be a lot more flexible to roll with the fun discoveries that happen when the specialists actually try and make the framework. So less sort of, here's a list of everything to do, and a bit more like, here's some opportunities to answer questions. If you have a cool idea for this, I can't wait to see it. It needs to be a bit more like that, I think.
Like, we work with the same people every day, you know, and I think that's how we've slowly built up that trust, you know, because we kind of know what to expect from each other. We sort of know that we're all into slightly different stuff, so we're always bringing something slightly different to the table, but we kind of know the angle that we'll be each coming at it from.
Yeah, some of us might like more abstract, kind of vibey kind of direction. Some other people might want you to hear exactly what's being asked of them, you know. And other people, you know, you're like, oh yeah, just like that movie, and they're like, yeah, absolutely, love that movie. Other people, it's like, oh, remember this video game? It's like, what? I wasn't alive then. What are you talking about? What's Planescape Torment? No offense.
Yeah, no, I'm old.
As someone who's worked in hospitality and someone who's been in a band, which one is working in development more like?
Which is more like game development, being in a band or hospitality? Wow.
I think it depends on the stage of production.
You know what? Yes, Thomas has summed that up perfectly.
Depends how much money you have.
It depends on the stage of production and how much cash flow you've got. Yeah,
like I have cash flow.
I've been in band situations where it's been really easy and it's just been about creatively just expressing yourself, and you get to do that. But then also have been in band situations where we lived in the back of a van in winter for 6 weeks, you know, so it's like, it's not all class all the time. And I think that game dev is like that. It has absolutely the highest highs. Like, I had to remind myself that we should take a beat and be excited about the fact that Pale Beyond came out on physical edition. Like, we can hold it in our hands. Like, if you told me as a kid that, I would have lost my mind. That's crazy that we have a box game came out, like a physical edition. That's nuts. And so it has like those high highs, you know, but just as equally, I think within. Oh,
you see that? As you can see, Thomas really respects our merch.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a good selling point. It survived.
Yeah.
Wall.
Good
very
packaging, sturdy packaging.
Durable packaging, super rare. Good job.
So you have those crazy high highs, you know, but just as equally, I think it has, you know, like some of the most difficult toil, you know, like we're always on the clock, you know, that never stops. And it's somebody else's clock as well, which is always challenging. But I mean, I find that anytime you have to toil for something, anytime you have to earn it, oh, it's all the sweeter. It's all the sweeter. I mean, it's things that, like, whenever the physical editions arrived, it is interesting how the battles that you win to get to that point now feel like, you know, like real wins. They're not just battles. Like, oh no, we achieved, we got past.
Yeah.
That's in the rear view mirror now, and look what we got for it.
We've done this before. We've picked up all the skills and problem solving that got us to here. And like you say, we could have taken more of a beat to, you know, celebrate this. But, you know, I gave a copy of this to my brother at Christmas, and I didn't think much of it because I just had a copy to give him and I just threw it in with the gift. But he opened it and he was like, "Whoa, oh, no way!" And we should have been like that. You know? We should have been like that.
I agree. Honestly, I mean, I think any industry, in fact, not even industry, just any creative endeavor, whether that's you pour yourself into making, you know, crocheted hats for your dog at home, or whether that be that you have the opportunity to work on like film or games, or if you're a musician at home, just like love playing the piano and nothing else, no one else ever hears it. I think just always making sure that you remind yourself to take a beat and look in the rearview mirror and remember where you've come from and where you've gotten to, because it's just so easy to get so embroiled in the fight every day. I think it's important to reflect and celebrate other gay shit.
Yeah,
That's the line.
That's the line. Other gay shit.
Yeah.
What's Werner Herzog's memoir called? What's it? Each man for himself and all against God. A memoir.
Oh my god.
each man for himself and against God.
And all against God.
All against God.
A memoir. Now I would like to talk to you about the spearhead. I love Werner Herzog so much.
Is his Instagram friend?
Oh my god! Like,
yeah, I'm
The Hearth and Harbour.
well, I mean, there's scenes from this that were lifted straight from his
Encounters at the End of the World.
Encounters at the End of the World.
Yeah, his documentaries and
Great
Yeah.
documentary.
Great documentary.
why are you giving about running a restaurant?
Can I say?
Yeah,
Is that okay?
Either of
yeah,
us.
100%. I've spoken loads, so please give me a break.
Go
If
ahead.
we're honest about the Pale Beyond, not everybody chose to make a game about an Antarctic expedition.
Yeah.
And with this restaurant sim, not all of us voted to go and make a restaurant sim.
Mm-hmm.
So what we kind of have with the Pale Beyond and this project is people who have loads of interests, who have a lot of specializations, things they're obsessed with, thrown into like almost like a in media res sort of place. How'd I end up here? How would I make, you know, the Pale Beyond a sort of like Ernest Shackleton story as somebody who we come from all these weird angles at a thing that. Now, where are we going to find the fun in this as somebody who maybe, how would we do it coming from a completely strange direction?
If it's like,
Constraints breed creativity, I think.
I think given that if it had been a straight vote, we might be making something else.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's rightly pointed out that when there is constraint and you have to operate within like barriers or gates you didn't choose. You know, that breeds really interesting and novel solutions to problems. And it's something we found in Pale, for sure. We saw that, is that it's not a situation that 100% of everybody would have chosen to be in. But the solutions were novel and interesting and led to, I thought, a really engaging and interesting video game. And I think we're sitting in a similar position now, I think, where a lot of the solutions are coming from a place of people that maybe aren't embroiled in the genre.
Yes.
But instead are coming at it from, okay, well, what's interesting and novel about this exact setup? Like, it's not what are the genre conventions, it's rather, what would we do?
Yeah, there's so many genres and types of game you can make that you could accidentally make a new hybrid just by accident.
Yeah.
A few creative decisions could just completely transform a genre with video games. Like you say, oh, I'm going to make a visual novel about a restaurant and running it. But, you know, I'm more excited about like being in the city and walking around it. And so if you can walk the streets and you can come across things at your own time and not just by clicking through dialogue, that gets me excited about being in this place and meeting people in it. I want things from other genres. I want to have the feeling of place and geography, and I want to look
history.
at the buildings and pick up the history in a game which could be very, very exposition heavy, a lot of people telling you things. I love to be able to just look at the world we're in, look at the city, and just get a lot of stuff just from looking at it as well.
Kind of show rather than tell.
I want a lot more eye candy in my visual novel if we've got to make one. I find that nourishing, the stuff that doesn't require words.
I mean, like the express examples are, I know whenever we were looking at building designs, that was particularly exciting for both of us because we both got kind of giddy. Like, we love the way that London's built. You know, you can see the Roman and the medieval and then the whatever is in between. And then, you know, we get kind of pre-modern and then to the modern stuff. But everything is just directly built on top of each other, you know, whenever you go.
Sedimentary.
Yeah. And you have these beautiful, really distinct layers. And I know we'd had those initial conversations right at the beginning that, oh, we have to include this. Like, this is like fundamental to give a place deep roots, you know, and have it be that it's not that, as you say, you don't find a book that tells you that it has deep roots. You see the deep roots because you can see the layers of the walls. You can see that, oh, some road parts are kind of really old cobble, and other bits you can see where it's been like patched and repaired loads of times. So it gives it weight.
Yeah, you got to believe that it existed before you started looking at it.
Exactly. I mean, that sums it up perfectly. Yeah, it has to have that, like, believability of existence.
Yeah, especially in a digital medium, because if you do everything clean and is perfect, as maybe it is down the street from your house, like maybe you walk out and it is perfectly clean and sheer, but in a digital medium, if you make it look too perfect and too straight and not jagged or like askew, it looks fake. So you really got to amp up the texture, the dirt, and the
Character.
the character imperfections just to break out of the medium of I'm looking at a screen with squares and colors, fills and stuff. It's got to be
a bit off grid and a little bit wonky. Like that, I think that's where a lot of the interest lies. In a funny way, with the music as well, like, it's very easy, especially with writing on the computer. It's very easy to get locked into everything being perfectly quantized and perfectly in time. But I think that things become a lot more interesting when there's a bit of flex and move. And much like we might have a slightly crooked building that overhangs the street slightly, I think it's interesting whenever we maybe have a little bit of space hang for a little longer than a beat, or we have a note hang on for just a little too long, because at the end of the day, it's how it makes you feel rather than it being exactingly perfect.
You don't want it to sound like there's too much machinery and too many automated processes creating the music. You want it to sound more like a real player was playing it. Maybe they stayed on the bar slightly longer because they were listening to another player.
Exactly. It's all feel and flex and move and yeah.
I think it's true of any like job, like professional work, that you don't have total control over what it is that you're doing. I guess I would say, what is it about the game's design that got you like excited? This is I'm starting to feel really excited, or I'm starting to feel like what we have is something really special, or I'm starting to feel like it's coming together and I can see what we're going for.
I think it felt like the answer was kind of simple for me. I mean, I'm sure the answer is different for you, but I love whenever media of any kind asks questions of the audience. It asks you to, put your flag in the sand or whatever and sort of define what you think about a thing. I think that's interesting and that's challenging. It's cerebral and it's intellectual, and these are all things that I profess to like, right? But I think one of the questions we asked of the player in the Pale Beyond, outside of the leadership question, was, this was clearly a microcosm that represented a wider world in the Pale Beyond.
Yeah.
And for me, that was asking the question, well, what is that world like?
Yeah.
And I feel like in the Hearth and Harbour, through the medium of a restaurant-y kind of game, we have this really wonderful opportunity to show. As we were saying, it's not tell, it's show, In Pale Beyond, we told the players about the wider world and then showed them the microcosm.
And that was perfect for that project because you could use the fog and the snow and the isolation of that wild, icy wilderness, basically, to be like, there's nothing else out there, just you. And as creative people, for a long time, we were doing barren, snowy wastelands without a single house or street or car or anything.
They are polar opposites, right? Like certainly
pent up creative energy.
Being in this position where it was like, it's this, the number of people, the number of characters you have to interact with slowly whittles down over the course of the game, and things get smaller and less, and the barren wasteland cares about you less and less, and
How many people did you kill?
I'm not that good at the Pale Beyond.
Your crew could be the same size.
It could be the same size. But certainly being in that position where things are, you've less supplies, and as you near the end of the journey, it sort of becomes about like who survived, and this sort of all culminates in this kind of final game moment. In an interesting way, I kind of felt like the Hearth and Harbour was at almost every point the exact opposite. It's about arriving somewhere and there is lots to find and discover. There is a crew or a community to build, as opposed to you're kind of starting with one. And you're in this position where I think everything that happens in the Hearth and Harbour supports the world that the Pale Beyond exists in. So certainly for me, at a conceptual level, I was already kind of sold on the idea, because I loved the idea of, oh, cool, the city we leave at the start of the Pale Beyond, dope, we get to arrive there and sort of see that. That's a different story. That's a different setting, and from an artistic perspective, it's drastically different. But
yes, and by taking the creative curveball of the time period that these Arctic expeditions were in their heyday, there's a sort of just before the First World War, there's a lot going on, a lot of changes in the world, and we were able to take that setting, and rather than it just be like, homage to Pale Beyond, it's instead like, lots changing in this world, a lot is becoming more industrialized, and there's this old world and there's a lot of beautiful things being made, but there's this dark cloud hanging ahead, and things might not be good for too much longer. Things might be too expensive. Everything might be a lot less of a world of beauty and art and nice food, and more rations and propaganda posters and all this stuff changing, that really we can start having some thematic focuses here in this time period, and it may be an alternate universe to ours, but it sure looks a lot like what's happening even today in the world, where there are a lot of changes, and that's we got to our audience live in this world too.
Yeah.
So we're making this game with these themes for us who exist right now.
The turn of the last century in the real world, I think upon reflection, hindsight's a wonderful thing, right? Obviously there is all of these many different things, but it feels to me like one of the overarching themes was the world from like 1901, the world starts to get smaller every year. And it never stops getting smaller until now, where, for the cost of like an expensive lunch, we could fly almost anywhere. Like the world is small right now. And I think that that's a fascinating period to look at, is that beginning of the shrinking of the world, Like, I mean, you mentioned the process of industrialization. We move from a place where every chair you buy took a week because the guy at the lathe did it by hand, to then a short number of years later, 1,000 chairs a day out of a factory, and that's a different world.
Yeah, and the trades are gone, and we all have to look at the new factory-made chair and say, well, that's as good as anything's ever going to look ever again.
Yeah. So there's something about, I think, there is this like gentle appreciation for the slower, more handmade kind of the time before. And we're not strictly saying that new is bad, because new isn't always bad. I guess it's more of let's take a beat and appreciate what was before we rush off too quickly.
Well, we're trying to thematically tie the way things are made in general to, say, the old markets and everybody providing the food on a face-to-face basis, that this is the baker. You look them in the eye, you buy the food. It's not a supermarket. It's we're trying to contrast this little fantasy early 1900s world, contrast to today, a world of mass production, plastic, metal. We're going back in time where everything's hand carved, hand rolled dough. The fisherman's right there selling you the fish.
Yeah, you feel like you have more of a chance to like know the artist or know the creator, know the person.
Yeah. And you can leave your house and walk to the market.
Yeah.
Some people today, they live in a suburb where they can't leave unless they have a car, and they go on a highway before they see a single business. They live on a satellite space station, basically. Hopefully, kind of emphasizing those themes in the city of Hearth and Harbour, Louthport. Hopefully people wonder, like, was that better? Do we miss that? Should we have some of that back again?
I mean, I think that comes back to what we were talking about. What was interesting to us at the start is it's like we want to ask questions of the player. If we can make them think about what they think about a thing in the same way that we thought about it whilst building and designing and working on the thing, that feels like a pretty good artistic achievement. If we can compel consideration about the same stuff we were thinking about, I think that's really interesting to me. And certainly it's what I would get out of a lot of the art I consume. I wanted to ask questions. I want to be challenged. So if we can do a bit of that, class.
Yep. Can't talk about a city without thinking of maybe our own city right now. And we're definitely going to think about, what way do we buy food today? What way do we buy things today? What way did it used to be? Was something lost? Do you actually know anybody who made your clothes or your bread?
Yeah, there's that little bit of separation between the act of creation and the act of consumption in a funny way.
Part of the world being smaller is that everything's shipped abroad. It's not made locally. You don't have a clue who made it. And it might be someone on the other side of the world that didn't get looked after very well by their community. What if you looked after everybody nearby and did the best thing for their business and they did the best thing for yours? Could that work? It's just a little experiment. Let's see if it feels good to walk every day to the baker's to make your meals for everybody, and then you recognize everyone by name. How do you feel with that little thought experiment? Is that nice?
I think one of the things that we try and celebrate in Hearth and Harbour is the specialist. It's the person that does one thing really well. And if we can encourage players to go and introduce themselves to their butcher or their baker, I think that's class.
Yeah. I love a chat.
So just make sure you do it at rush hour. Whenever they're really busy.
Yes.
Yeah, just before Christmas or
Just
Thanksgiving.
before Christmas.
Yeah. Just stand in line and talk to them for an hour. They'll love that.
I will love that. Unlike the Pale Beyond, Hearth and Harbour was designed a lot more mechanically first, the narrative first. How did this affect the decision-making process or overall game design?
Pale started out literally as just a visual novel, so what was happening in the story would drive everything. And so having played that early version, we kind of had to find the decision making in the game design and sort of graft it on after, like a cyborg. Became more mechanical, and maybe is like a massive swing in the other direction. Maybe we were trying this time to start with systems first and think, well, if you've got this job every day, let's make the job first. The job is, open up your restaurant, go to the market, buy your food, set up the menu, serve all the meals to everyone, and all of that stuff, it'll keep you busy for a long time making all that work. And we also had like a sense of calendar, like how many days are in this game, and for quite a long space of time in the game you kind of need to make the systems enough that they can carry over that long, and hopefully we can do that, but we needed a bit more meat on the bone to be confident that we could fill out a story for long enough with a bit more sort of turn-based gameplay more often than we might have got in the Pale Beyond. The Pale Beyond had worker placement, a bit like some board games might have, where you send a certain amount of crew off to do things each week, and then you skip to the next week, and then you gain things, and it keeps you going. Some light survival mechanics. This time, there's currency, there's items to buy, there's shops, there's vendors that have reputations, there's customers that have reputations. You could try and fake that stuff and just have the story tell you it happens, but it's so much more satisfying to build the infrastructure of that and see the outcomes feeding in and feeding out, and each playthrough being a lot more divergent from other people's playthroughs. I think we were just a lot more ambitious this time around. Yeah,
I agree with all of that. I think that I think a lot of it came from, certainly for me anyway, a lot of it came from just wanting to do something that felt different to do. I didn't really want to do Pale Beyond 2 straight away like that, but still didn't really feel like we were quite done being in this universe yet. So this kind of felt like the right style of thing, because it allows us to do something very different but still lean on the familiar. So yeah,
we go, it's in the universe of the Pale Beyond because of course it is, but we can actually think of good thematic reasons to be in this time period in this city. A lot of it can be a good sort of canvas to explore themes we want to explore and try new systems that we want to try, and so you got to own those decisions very deliberately.
Yeah,
like there's a real point to, these are part of our pillars, this is what we're aiming for. It's good that it's like a sort of fantasy 1900s, that's a perfect time to tell this story on the brink of war, and we get to hit all those beats that we feel were good about the Pale Beyond, where things turn serious and it gets to be about something a bit deeper.
Yeah, and then the addition of like just a little bit more mechanical complexity. I think that hopefully that'll furnish the player with just like slightly more game, where I love the Pale Beyond, I'm incredibly proud of it, but at the end of it I think all of us kind of agreed that it would be really interesting to try to do a little bit more, and just having a little bit more mechanical complexity I think kind of gets us there, certainly for Hearth and Harbour.
Yeah, we owe it to ourselves to challenge ourselves so that we can make more cool stuff, and you make the best game you can, But then you actually get better at what you do, hopefully, and then you can make an even better game, hopefully.
Yeah.
At the moment, we're just probably excited to make different games and see what we're capable of in different directions, rather than copy and paste all the time.
Yes, that might be faster, but it would be really boring.
And we might not get better at what we do.
Well, what's the Jim Carrey thing? You can fail at the thing you hate, so you might as well try the thing you love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You learn stuff even if you don't hit the mark.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
If you like our work and would like to support us, wishlist our games on Steam and follow along for more development updates. Why is wishlist a hard word to say? It's very wet.